Okay. Before we get into it, I want to mention a couple of things. First, you don't have to have your camera on. That's fine. If you choose not to, there's no worries. I will answer your questions. What I'll do in this case is ask that you type your question into the chat box, because there is a chat box here. And we'll get to it towards the end of the class, unless it's something that you need me to repeat or clarify. And if that's the case, you can feel free to unmute yourself and say, hey, can you go back over that again? Or can you explain it a little bit more? And we'll do that at that time. But if you have any other questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll get to it by the end of class. So, yes, questions will be answered. I appreciate all of you for putting your names in the description so that I'll know who is asking questions and stuff, and we can make sure to keep everything organized just so. Again, I appreciate each one of you for taking the time to take this class for Sew It Pro. I absolutely love Sew It Pro. It's a phenomenal little powerhouse of a program. Sew It Pro is $65. Most of the other embroidery editing programs out there, those usually run $200, $300. They're very pricey. And I was just really frustrated when I was first starting out with embroidery. And I had this little bitty machine, single needle, that I only paid like $250 for at the time. I bought it at a Black Friday deal in Walmart. And I was struggling trying to customize the embroidery designs that I was doing and could not figure out how to do it on the machine. And I said, there has to be a software program. And when I started looking, and the prices of the software programs were astronomical. It was like $400 back then. It was like $400, $500, and I just could not justify paying that much money for a little machine that I was having fun with. And then one day, in a fit of frustration, I just Googled affordable embroidery editing program, and Sew It Pro just so happened to pop up. So that started my love with Sew It Pro. Because they came through for a heifer in a pinch. I was like, yes, I needed that champ move right there. And so it took me a while to learn it, but once I caught on and figured out all the little ins and outs, I was sold. So I don't know how long each one of you have had Sew It Pro. If you would like to, you can put in the chat how long you've had it. If you just started, this class is for you. If you've had it for a while, this class can be for you as well. Sew It Pro is an editing program. It does not digitize. So when we're saying digitize, it means you want to take a picture or an illustration or a logo and turn it into embroidery stitches. You can do that, but Sew It Pro is not the program you want to use that for. Sew It Pro has a sister program, and it's called Sew Art. Sew Art is an auto digitizing program that is also available on my website if you're interested in downloading the trial and seeing how that works. And Sew Art is a decent program as well, but this is for Sew It Pro. So with Sew It Pro, before we really get into the editing aspect of learning the editing part in this program, one of the first things I want to mention is that your computer setup is extremely important. And you'll probably wonder why does that even matter? Well, when you have a dedicated embroidery folder, you should have an embroidery folder, one folder somewhere on your computer, whether it's your desktop, whether it's on your D drive, whether it's in your My Documents, doesn't matter where it is, where it matters to you, one folder that says embroidery or whatever the name of your embroidery machine is, or embroidery fun, whatever you want to name it, one folder. And in that folder, we're going to talk about breaking down your designs and your fonts and all of that good stuff. And the reason why that's so important and why I mentioned that in this class is because you want to have one central location. In the event that you get another laptop, in the event that your hard drive crashes, you have one folder that you're backing up, and you don't have to worry about everything being all over the place and looking and hunting. So between your downloads folder, whenever you download new designs, and we'll be going over that tonight as well, when you download new designs, just go ahead and pop them over into your embroidery folder. You can have even a folder in your embroidery folder that says downloads that you can pop in there for the time being until you're ready to get started and organize your files a little bit better later. So That's going to be really important when we get into doing fonts, which is why I'm mentioning it as well, so that you can have an easier time when it's time to map in your fonts. So we're going to go ahead and open up Sew It Pro and let you see what Sew It Pro is working with. Now, I'm going to share my screen. So if you don't see Sew It Pro here in a moment, let me know, just, you know, speak up or whatever, because there's a little doohickey setting on the side that some people don't have set and they're not able to see the share screen. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now so that you guys can test that out. So you should see Sew It Pro popped up on your screens. If you don't, just holler at me and let me know. So this is my Sew It Pro, and one of the things you'll notice right off, and I mention this to everybody, all across the top are all of these little toolbar icons. This is going to be your friend once you learn what each one of the icons mean. Now, right now, they're all grayed out. And I get this question a lot, well, my icons are grayed. That's because we don't have a design on our desktop right now. We don't have anything here that we're working on. So until we actually bring in a design, they're going to be grayed out. So let's go ahead and grab a design. Now I have one already loaded on my computer, but a part of this class too, I go ahead and show you guys where I got the design from. And where I get my design from for this class is Embroidery Library. And I'm showing this website to you as well. I don't get any commission from these guys or anything. They just have excellent embroidery designs. And they'll download the designs in the file format you want. But the cool thing about them is under the designs by category, here's a free designs section. And last month, for the month of October, the design that we're working on tonight was free. It's not free anymore, but it was free. But they do have these really cute designs that are available for free for the month of November. And of course, December, this will change and you'll get a whole new set of designs that will be free. So just keep that in mind. Embroiderylibrary.com or emblibrary.com is where we're going to get our design from this evening. All right, so let's go to here and go back to Sew It Pro. Now, I'm going to bring in the embroidery design that we're going to work with tonight. And there's two ways to bring in a design, but when you're bringing in your very first design, you want to do open. So we're going to pop open, and then my designs are on my D drive. And I left it in its own folder right here on the D drive. And so I'm going to open up this absolutely adorable little kitty cat. And he opened up in a 4x4 frame. Now, in most instances, whenever you open up a design, it should open up in the smallest frame that it will fit in. Sometimes that doesn't always work, and that's okay, because we're going to go over right now how you change your frame size. So right now, this is 4x4. And in the lower right-hand corner, there's a zoom button. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Right, and then right up above it, there's a tool button that says adjust hoop size. And as you see, it's a little black hoop with green in the middle to help you remember that that's where we're going to adjust our hoops. Now in this box that popped up, everyone can see the hoop properties box, hopefully, because this is on the screen. This is where you change your hoop size. Now with this specific box, they worked really hard. The people who created this program worked really hard to program each machine brand that's out there for embroidery. We have Baby Lock, we have Bernina, we have Kenmore, we have Husqvarna, we have Janome, Melco, Redline, the whole gamut of the embroidery machines. So what this allows you to do is click on the brand machine that you have, and every hoop that comes with that machine should be in the list below it. Okay, so no matter what size Husqvarna machine you have, what level, I think there's like a Ruby and that line, your hoop should be in here somewhere. Now, of course, there'll be even bigger hoops, and your machine may not have those bigger hoops, but it's okay. When you upgrade your equipment, your hoops will be there. So for me, I have a Brother machine and a red line, but we're going to work with the Brother in this instance. And I select the Brother tab. The other thing I want to point out is the sizes here. Keep in mind, if you're trying to find a 5x7 hoop, notice here it says 5.12 by 7.09. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not 5x7. No, it's not, but it is, because our hoops are all created based on the metric system. So it's not a true 5 inches by a true 7 inches. So don't be thrown off by that. Notice right beside it, it says Baby Lock 5x7. Okay, so the sizes are here for you to choose. Another thing we want to point out is this first option is always going to be the up and down option, or the portrait option. And right beside it is its companion side by side or long ways or landscape option. You don't have that with the ones that are even, like this one is a 5x12 by 5x12. There's no need to do, because it's a perfect square or perfect circle, so you won't have that. So if that, to point that out, but we're going to actually do landscape in a 5x7 so that we can do some editing with our little friend here. All right, so here we have our cat, and before we work with a design in Sew It Pro, I suggest, before we make any changes to this other than the hoop size, I suggest you change the name of your file. The reason why I'm suggesting that is because when you download your design from whatever website it is, like in this instance, we got it from embroiderylibrary.com, and the name of the file that I opened is right up here on this tab, right up above the design, and it says M32253.pes. All right, and you also have that across the very top. At the very, very tippity top, it tells you what file you're working with, how many stitches is in it, and what hoop size you're working with as well. So what will happen if I don't save this now as something else, and I go to make a change to this? So say, for instance, I change the size of it, and then I hit the save button, which a lot of us are accustomed to doing, then it will overwrite the original file that I downloaded from the website. So if I need to use this kitty again at his size, the way I downloaded him from the website, I'm not going to be able to get him without going back to the website, downloading him again, or going and finding the zipped file, unzipping it again, and trying to get that design all over again. It's just drama. So we're going to go ahead and I'll show you. I've already saved him one time before, and I named him Edit. So it's the same file, so it'll be easy for me to find it again later. But this time I just added Edit on the end. Or if you're making a set of shirts for your grandkids or your kids, you can name one Christina, the next one Amber, or whatever the case may be, and you can name it based on the project that you're working on as well. But we suggest go ahead and save it as a new file with a new name, so that once we start making changes, we won't overwrite the original file. All right. So now that we've done that, let's talk about resizing embroidery designs. So that's one of the biggest things people want to do with embroidery designs that they purchase. And if we go back to Embroidery Library, notice here, like for instance, this design, it comes in 3 different sizes. And if this design was $4.99, well, matter of fact, let's go ahead and show you what that looks like. So let's go to this one, and notice how this design here, it comes in 4 sizes. This size, which is the biggest size, I believe, is $4.99. But you might want to do one on an adult shirt and one on a kid shirt. So you're paying $4.99 for the big one, and you're like, well, I don't want to pay $3.99 for the little one. I can't just resize that and put it on the kid shirt. It's a common question. I don't suggest that, and we'll go into that here in a moment. But this is one of the main reasons why a lot of people want to resize designs, because they don't want to buy more than one copy of a design. But it's not a bad thing to buy a copy of the sizes, and we'll get into that in a moment. But here we have our cat, and we want to resize him, and Sew Up Pro makes it really easy to resize. But let's not jump into using these bars over here on the side to resize our patterns, as tempting as it is, because it is right here, and all you got to do is click it and make it bigger or smaller, for that matter. You can resize it that way, but that's not the proper way to resize our design. Why is that? Well, if we select this design and look over in our thread chart pattern, our thread information over here on the side, it tells us that this pattern is 3.85 wide by 3.36, which is how I purchased it. And then right up under, it says total stitches, 10,916 stitches. Why is that important? So notice, if I take this cat and I drag his handles and make him much bigger, right? He's super huge. Now look over here again. His size changed, but his stitches are still 10,916 stitches. You need your stitches to change with the size of your design. Why is that? Well, if you were to knit a sweater for yourself, and your sweater takes 2 skeins of yarn, well, you want to make a smaller sweater for your niece or your nephew so that you guys can match. Are you still going to use 2 skeins of yarn for the little teeny sweater for the child? That's going to be entirely too much yarn. Her sweater is going to have her bunched up like this, and it's going to be a super stiff sweater. It's not going to be cute and loose and nice like yours. Likewise, if you make her one and it only takes a skein for her shirt, you really want to do more than just 1 skein of yarn for your own shirt as an adult, because otherwise it's not going to cover up very much, and we want to be covered up out here. So likewise, in your embroidery, if I were to resize this much smaller and not take away some of those stitches, you will get what's called bulletproof embroidery. And so what that basically means is it's a whole bunch of little stitches in one small area, and that's where a lot of needle breaks come from, because the design isn't designed properly, or somebody resized it wrong, and it's just doing a whole bunch of stitches in one space, and it's just going to tear up stuff, or you'll get bird nesting up under in addition to it breaking the needle. It's just a lot of mess. So the best way to resize, don't resize by those handles. We want to go up into the menu and hit tools, and we want to resize pattern, okay? Or right here beside the hoop, here's resize pattern as well, all right? Now, when we open up resize pattern, notice right here, auto adjust stitch density. Auto adjust your stitch density. So basically, when you resize this, it's automatically going to change your stitches to what it needs to be to make sure you have either enough stitches for a larger size or take away some of those stitches for a smaller size. Now let's see that in action. So right now, make sure that that's always checked by default. It usually is. You also have the option to measure in percent of initial size. So what that is right here, our design is at 100% right now where it is. So if I want to make it smaller, I'll take away from the percentage and do 75%. If I want to make it bigger, I can go 120%. It's entirely up to you if you want to do it that way. Or if you really need to be more specific, you can uncheck that box, and notice now it tells you what the measurement is by the actual measurement. And then now you can change it. So say for instance, you want it taller, you can change your height. You would have to unlock the aspect ratio, because now with that locked, whatever size I change on one, it's going to change the other one to keep it proportionate to what it already is. But if I want to make it taller, say if I want this to be 4 inches, I uncheck that box and then I'll change it to 4 and hit OK. And now my cat is stretched up high, so he's a little bit taller. Okay. Now let's go back into our resize pattern. And before I change, I'm going to do by percentage, but before I change the measurement, I'm going to mention that as a digitizer, as someone who digitizes embroidery designs, which this also goes back to what I was mentioning on purchasing the different sizes on that website. When we digitize a design, we bring in the image at the final size we need that embroidery design to be. So for instance, if I wanted this cat to be on a jacket back, I would bring in a picture of that cat, put it to the size of the jacket back where I need it to be, then digitize it at that size. That way our stitches are completely optimized to what it needs to be based on the size. So here, when I'm changing the size of this cat, I'm basically messing with the foundation that the digitizer created it at. And you can do that. It's not necessarily anything wrong with it, so to speak, but you run a risk of messing with the structure of that design. And it's interesting how sometimes people will change the size of a design and then say, oh, this isn't stitching out right, it's trash. And then other people will chime in and say, oh, well, that's because it's not digitized properly. No, it was digitized properly at the proper size, but when you resized it, you messed with it a little bit. It can be done, and it can be done. What I suggest is if you do resize it, we suggest no more than 20% larger or 20% smaller. That's a rule of thumb. That's just a basic suggestion. If you go larger or smaller than that, that's entirely up to you, but do a test stitch out first. Do a test stitch out first. Don't stitch it out on the design or on the project that you're working on, because if it doesn't stitch out optimally like you would like for it to, then you not only wasted your time, but you ruined a project. You know what I'm saying? So you want to stitch it out on something that kind of doesn't matter, that's similar to what you're trying to do. And that way you know how it's going to turn out before you actually put it on your actual project. But you can go larger or smaller than 20%. You can do it. And Sew It Pro will let you do it. So let's go by percentage, and I'll show you an example of that. Let's drop it down 60% to 60%. So it's going to be 40% smaller than what it is. So we'll go to 60. And because, let me lock the aspect ratio because I want it to stay proportionate. So I'm going to type in 60 and click OK. So he's much smaller. And then notice over here, our stitches have decreased as well. We don't have 10,000, excuse me, we don't have 10,900 stitches anymore. Now we have 10,800 stitches. So it took away about 100 stitches so that we won't have to worry about having too many stitches in one small place. Okay, so if I'm going to stitch this out, I want to test this out first to make sure that it's not going to, that the embroidery is going to come out looking like I need it to look. All right, so that is resizing designs. Let us go into arranging it on the hoop really quickly. Now that's where these little black boxes come in handy. I line them up and center it based on where those black boxes are. There is a centering option in here as well. I'll have to find it. I don't use it often at all because I go based off of the grid on my workspace. So that helps me line it up. And then too, I also line up based on the lettering, which we're going to be adding here in a little bit. So you can move this all around. Just keep in mind that if you don't center it and you move it off to the side, like right up here, and you save it and send it to your embroidery machine is not going to center this cat. It's going to be off up in the corner where you put it. So sometimes people will bring in designs and then get mad at the machine because the design is way off, but you have to center it in order for it to stitch centered. So we have our cat. I made him smaller because what I'm going to do, in addition to later adding lettering to this, we're going to add another cat. All right, so we want to do 2 of them. I want to stitch out to it one time. So let's go ahead and add another cat. You can come up here and merge in another cat, and this will open up the original file and bring him in, and now we have two. You always want to merge in something. If you do open, it'll open up in its own file, and then that won't do you any good because now he's open over here in his own thing, and this is where we're working. So merge in your design, and here's another cat. But say for instance, and all I'm going to do is click on him and hit delete on the keyboard to remove him. But say for instance, I want him to be the exact same size as this cat. I don't want to have to go through all that resizing stuff again. So you can click on the cat, select him, hit edit, copy, and then click off of him, and then come up here and click paste. And it will add another cat. He came right on top of the other one, but notice over here in your thread list, you have one color stop here and another color stop. So now we have two cats on here. So we have him selected. Let's slide him over, and there's our second cat. Okay. So again, we can copy. Well, we don't have to copy and paste now, because if I want to add another cat, I just come up here and hit paste. And now I have three color stops because now I have a third cat. All right. So that's how you can add in other designs. So even if I wanted to bring in a completely different design, I'll just come up and find a design somewhere. I have designs all over the place. So say I want this medical symbol, I can merge in a whole nother design. So I want a cat with a medical symbol on it for whatever reason. You can merge in any two designs, any 2, 3, 4, 5 designs if you want to. They can all be merged into the same workspace, and you can edit all of them in to make one big design and save it as one big design. All right. So now that we have 3 cats, let me show you how you change the colors. So we don't have our, let me see if, make sure you guys are not over there. So we have down here, it shows stitch distribution. Someone asked me what the stitch distribution is for. I meant to email the owner, the programmer, and ask him what that was for. I don't know. So I can't answer that question, but what I can tell you is if you select whichever color stop it is that you want to change, once you select it, down here it turns into your thread chart. All right. So say for instance, we want this cat to be a different color. Right now it says deep green. The only thing you have to do is click on the color that you want him to be. And right now he's Seacrest. So we changed his color. The other thing I definitely want to point out with your thread colors down here is notice you have your color representation here and then the name of the thread and your thread number. So if you're going to be doing projects for customers, this is going to be really important, especially if you have to have a repeat customer that comes back and say, hey, you did such a good job. I want 20 more of those shirts. Well, you need to make sure you're matching up your thread color. And instead of trying to remember what it is, you can, you know, save it as the thread color that you know that you use. Also, up above your thread colors, you'll see your thread palette. Right now, mine is set to Brother Poly. I don't normally use Brother embroidery thread. Normally, I use Madeira. So you can come down in this list and grab Madeira Poly Neon, which is what I normally use. And here now I have all of my colors that match to the threads that I have out there in my studio. And all I have to do is select it. That also makes it easy to know what thread you need to reorder if you're getting low, if you know you're going to be doing that order again. So here's your thread numbers over here in the right-hand side. This chart it has pretty much for the most part, every embroidery brand out there. And if it's not there, then they're really cool. If you email the company and say, hey, I don't see this thread brand in here, can you add it? They will add it in there as long as they can get a hold to the thread information, their thread numbers and change it and add it in for you. So they're really good about that. You also can print out your thread chart as well. It's really cool. So likewise, you can go to a different thread color and change each individual thread color if you want to. All right. So we've brought in a design. We changed our hoop size. We changed our file name, showed you how to change the file name. Also, in addition to changing your file name, say for instance, you brought this in as a PES and we changed the file name, but going back to editing, if you want to save this, because I also have a red line, well, I want to save this to use on my red line. Now I'll do the same thing, go to file, but save as, and instead of typing and changing the name, I still want it to be edit, but I'll come right here to save as file type. And then once you click that drop down box, here are all of the embroidery file types out there, including you have JPEG, GIF, and PNG as well. Why are these 3 file names important? Now, I didn't point this out to the other classes and I should have, but the reason why these 3 file names are important is, say for instance, you need to show a printout of what it's going to look like to your customer. You can save it as a JPEG because they're not going to be able to pull up an embroidery file. So if you save it as a JPEG, it will save an image of this hoop with your embroidery design laid out on it. But likewise, I can also change to a different file type, DST, and save it. And so now I have this saved as a DST file. Any file, doesn't matter. If you bought a file 10 years ago and it's in DST, but you need it to be in Brother PES, just open it up, save it as PES, and now it works with your new embroidery machine. This can change. And it also does batch converting as well, meaning it'll change a whole folder of files from one extension to another if you needed to. So we've changed file names, we've resized. We've also talked about how 20% is the general rule, but it's entirely up to you. You want to make sure that you have the auto adjust stitch density so that your stitches will fill in like they're supposed to, or have some taken away like they're supposed to. And we also talked about copy and pasting designs, merging designs. Do we have any questions up until this point? That was a powerful 30 minutes, just that quick. Powerful 30 minutes. So I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes or a minute or so to, if you have a question. How may I help you, Ms. Sharp?
When you said that you can open, I just put it in the chat, but I'll just ask you verbally. When you said you can change the file format, so if it's going from, you know, from a brother to a Viking or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you need to adjust the stitching, or does it automatically do that when you change the file?
It'll do that for you. You don't have to change anything, because most of the embroidery, all of the embroidery machines will stitch out this exactly as you see it. It won't. The only time there you may see it change is sometimes when I change it to, say for instance, DST, it'll change my hoop size and put it in like a round hoop. I don't know why it does that, but as long as the design fits in the hoop, it doesn't matter for me, because I know how to adjust it on the machine. But you won't have to do anything other than save it in its new file format. That's it.
Hi, Eve. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good. So when I buy embroidery files, say like from Etsy, how should I be saving them to kind of categorize them on my jump drive?
Woo, that's a powerful question too. So the reason why I'm laughing and saying it's powerful is because I'm one of those do as I say, do not as I do type people. I can show you my folder. Let me move this out of the way. What I suggest, and for the most part, I stick to it. I really did in the beginning, but I got lazy as time went on. So if we go to my embroidery folder, let me open this up and I'll make them bigger. So as you see here, this is my embroidery, my main folder, embroidery. But I also have an African folder. I have an applique folder where all of my applique files should be. Are they there? No, but they should all be there. I have custom designs where I might have digitized something or changed something and I wanted it to be custom. I have it here. Monograms are all here. All of my fonts are right here in this folder under letters. So I have a font folder. That's really, really important for our next thing we're about to go over. And then I have mine based on just each design in its own folder. And that's been very taxing for me because what I should have done was save these by, I should have saved them by not manufacturer, but designer. So like Designs by Juju, I should have had a folder that says Designs by Juju and then her designs in there. Or it's entirely up to you. You could have one that's dogs, nautical, you know what I'm saying, transportation, or so it's up to you how you want to organize your embroidery files, but you definitely need to have some form of organization so that you're not scrolling through designs all day long trying to find that one design, as I often find myself doing. It's not fun. So I'm just teaching folks to learn from my horrible frustrating example, because it is a pain when you have to search through all of these files to find that one design. Right. When you do design it, also try to find some kind of way to put maybe your receipt, save a picture of your receipt or something in the folder with the design. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, like you said, you purchased off of Etsy. Well, what if you need to tell somebody where you bought it from, or maybe you need to buy another one of her designs that you saw and you didn't get at the time? If you know where you got it from, then you know how you can go right back to it. Some designers, like Designs by Juju, I'm gonna open up this font folder and show you how hers is. Designs by Juju and Stitchtopia. Like right here, this is a Designs by Juju font. It says Quite Contrary. And the beginning of her file is DBJJ. So I already know that's a Designs by Juju font. I don't have to wonder where I got it from if I need to find it again. Stitchtopia is the same way. Hers is Stitchtopia, is in her file name. So it's very helpful when you know where to go back to. And as you see, the fonts are insane. So it's good to know where you got them from. But it's a loaded question, a good question, but it's a loaded question. Now, So What Pro has another program. It's called SewCat. And SewCat, if you're just starting, it is an awesome program for you. It will allow you to categorize your embroidery designs. And then that way you can go into SewCat and pull up your designs based on your categories, so that you're not scrolling through a whole folder. They're all virtually stored in the SewCat program. So it's really neat. If you've just started, like me now at this point, it would take me some days to get all of my designs organized in that program. So, because I didn't keep up with it. I have it, but I didn't keep up with it. Are there any other questions?
There's another question in the chat. I can read it to you. It says, can you change the color of the whiskers? Like, can you?
You can.
Change out the colors within the designs?
You can, but that is an advanced class that's going to be taught in our next class, the Ninja class, because that involves you have to cut up the design. You can't do it like it is now because it was digitized as just one file. But you can do it. I change colors all the time of stuff because that's how I am. I don't like ordinary. I want mine to be different. And so
yeah,
you can.
Sorry, I've got a ton of questions. That one was from the chat, but I have another one. Would you suggest getting the other program? You said there was a Sew Art. Yes.
They have Sew Art, Sew It Pro, SewCat, Sew Right. Sew Right isn't necessary. They have icons. Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it. That you can see thumbnails. How when I pulled up my folder and you could see images of my embroidery designs, they have a program for that. Honestly, what I would say, you can go to my website and there's all of their programs are listed there, and you can just go through and read what they do and see if it's something you'd be interested in. Okay. They're all very affordable. Now, Soul Art, the digitizing one, people often ask me, should I digitize? And my answer to that is, how often do you think you be wanting to digitize? If you think that's something that you're going to want to do on a regular basis, then invest in it. Otherwise, I know of people who will digitize for you, and you can just send it to them and they'll digitize it, and you don't have to even worry about it, because digitizing is a process. It's not, even though Soul Art is an auto digitizer, but you're still going to want to adjust some things with it.
Okay. Because I am interested
in digitizing works.
I am interested in the digitizing because I got a lot of art
ideas
graphics
and stuff.
Yeah, and I got a lot of graphics that I want to digitize, and I've got a few people that do digitizing, but you know, when you do it at between $5 and $15 per pop, and you've got a few hundred you want to do, it makes sense to just invest in the software.
But I will say Soul Art is like more of a beginner's digitizing, so it auto digitizes. What I would suggest to you is download the trial version and try it out, because it's not a true digitizer. That when I tell you digitizing is like doing graphic artists, how a graphic artist draws each and every single aspect of it, digitizing is the exact same way. That's why I don't teach digitizing, because the little bit that I do know, I know there's a whole lot more to it that I should know, and I haven't taken the time to take the classes and get where I need to be with it, because I don't digitize that much. I just like whatever, and I kind of kick myself for paying the $1,000 for the program, but if I need to, I can, you know, but it's still not to the level of like JJ digitizing is.
Okay.
It's not. Gotcha. So I pay him to do my heavy stuff, and then the light stuff I do myself.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now our next part is a little heavy, so we may go over a little bit. And that's with lettering. Lettering is with Sew What Pro, there's 3 different ways to add letters into a design. The first way I'm going to show you is a way we do not suggest, even the programmers, all of the folks up high with this program say, you know, don't really fool with it too much. So I'm going to show you that so that you know what it is, but we're not going to go into it too deep. Then there's when you purchase your own font, I'll show you how I add fonts in myself personally, which is the old school way. And now they've added in a new feature of a new way you can add in fonts. So we're going to go into all of that, but that new way they've added in, I'm basically going to be teaching you guys how to do programming. So you're going to be programming in Sew What Pro. It's not as difficult as it sounds, especially when you are going to have access to the replay. But programming is basically what we're going to end up doing. So I'm going to take away one cat so that we can have this space free down here for our lettering. Now, the first way you can add lettering, it's not suggested, but it is here and it's in the program, it's in tools. And when you come down to tools, you see this option right here that says Sew lettering. There's also EMB lettering, but Sew lettering is the one that I'm talking about. So if we click on that, it's going to open up a box that will let you type in what you want to say. And it's going to automatically digitize your lettering based off of the fonts that are built in on your computer. Okay, so TTF fonts, any font you have on your computer, this part of the program automatically digitizes it based on those fonts. And as awesome as that sounds, it just doesn't fit the bill. It just doesn't. It actually digitizes pretty bad. If you hit save, and we'll show you, I think that's it. No, we'll hit okay. And notice it popped it in, and I'm going to zoom in on it so that you guys can see what I'm saying. Like, for instance, this was a font that was on my computer, And notice like in this G, there's an extra little line here, and the S, there's an extra line. You can see it says testing, but it just doesn't look good. That's because this is automatically digitized, and fonts, like as I just mentioned, I paid $1,000 for a digitizing program called Willcom Hatch so that you can digitize images and such, but it's technically not a font digitizing program. The font digitizing part of Willcom is called E4. That's $4,000 for that program. And that's why, because it's made a super duper powerhouse to teach you how to digitize fonts properly. There's a way to do it, and automatic is just not the way. Okay, so there are some people out there who do still use sole lettering because they found some fonts on their computer that actually does work, and it does stitch out okay for them. So you can try it, it's there. What I'm going to suggest is the same thing with resizing. If you do use that feature, do a test stitch out first. Don't stitch it on your project and see how you like it. You might like it, but most people are very dissatisfied with that part of the program. So I'm just pointing that out so that you'll know the reason why they even put that in there is because like when I started 5 years ago and I was getting into embroidery, as I mentioned, the embroidery editing programs were in the hundreds. Well, fonts were $15 each, $20 each. It was ridiculous because I was like, I'm never going to be able to build up fonts because they were so expensive. But fortunately, I came in at a time as things were starting to transition and get more affordable. So that after that, I came across several sites where the fonts were way more economically efficient for me. And so now you can get fonts $2, $5, $1.99 type stuff. So you don't have to really worry about that anymore. So they can actually phase that part out because most people buy properly digitized fonts and use them, but they did it as a convenience so that people could afford to have lettering in their programs. But the way I add in fonts is I use what's called info icon view, and notice there's a box right here that says lettering over the top of our thread palette. All right, now we're going to get to this in a moment, but when you add lettering this way, you have to merge in the first letter, okay? And I'll show you why here in a moment. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Merge, and this also is going to show you why it's so important to have your folders set up properly for your fonts and your embroidery designs. So we're going to go up, and I think, is it on my desktop? I think so. Yes. Okay, so I have a couple of font folders here. Now I'm going to show you one that's organized properly. We're going to go to Stitchtopia Juniper, and I'm going to bring in a 1-inch word, and we're just going to do something simple. We're going to do test. So I'm going to open the letter T. So here's my first letter, T for test. Now I can go into my info icon area, my lettering area, and click insert lettering from info paint. So let's click this first one. And notice it opens up my 1-inch folder. So see right here, it shows your file name and it says Stitchtopia Juniper 1-inch. So now let's click our E. Actually, you can click one time, click S, and then T, click on it one time, and there's your letters, and there's my word. And I can click the lettering button again, and now it's closed out, and here are my 4 letters, and I can line them up. Like the T is a little bit far away, I can move it over, can layer them on top of each other, whatever I want to do at this point, and change the colors by clicking each one and changing the color to something else. Okay. So that's how I add letters. Also, if you want to join these so that instead of it, like on your single needle machines, it'll stitch the letter T, then it will stop. Then it'll stitch the letter E, then it will stop. It'll do the S and stop, so on and so forth. That's because each one of these is a color stop, all right? So that you can change threads and change the colors. But you can join this in Sew It Pro by going up to Edit and Join Threads. and then you can join all adjacent threads of the same color, or you can join all of the threads of the same color, or join threads of the same color starting at a certain color number. Now be careful of the all threads of the same color, because if you're merging embroidery designs that are already out there, you can throw off the order in which something stitches out, and it can mess up the way the design looks, because some designs are made to stitch behind other designs. Like for instance, with this one, let me show you. Actually, let's undo that just to show you what I mean. See how this letter T and how that I pulled it over so that this tail goes behind the letter E? If I were to merge colors and throw off the order, it could put this T in front of the E, and then it won't stitch correctly. It'll look funny because then it'll put the tail over the top of the E, and that's not what I want. I want it tucked behind the E so that it'll look nice and clean as a stitch out. So that's pretty much what I'm saying. All right, so that's how I add in my lettering, but there's another way. One of the biggest complaints that I heard throughout my tenure with Sew It Pro is people are familiar with BX fonts. BX fonts is a brand name of a font, a file extension that will allow you to type in on the keyboard, just like I did with the other part of the program that's not good. You can type it in, and then your letters pop up on the screen based off of what you type on the keyboard, and then you go on about your merry way and you have your lettering. Now for me, I've never complained about that, because as I showed you, I'm typing in usually just one word, so I don't need to do a whole sentence. But in some instances, like at one point I was doing a patch for a friend, and it was, "This is the shirt that I used to wear. Whenever you hold it, you'll know I was there," type poem that went on the pillow. And when I started clicking in one letter at a time, I was like, oh, now I understand why they want to type it in. So if you're doing a lot of typing, a lot of letter adding, then this part of the feature is going to be for you, because they did add that feature in here. But it couldn't be BX, because BX is copywritten and it's trademarked by Embrilliance. So BX fonts cannot be used in Sew It Pro, but you can program your own fonts into Sew It Pro. And let me show you how that works. So if you go into tools, and now we're going to select EMB lettering, EMB lettering. And when you open this up, we have what is our font mapping desktop. Okay, now there's a drop down box right here, which will show you all of the fonts that you already have mapped. Okay, but we need to add in one so that I can show you what that looks like. And there's this T right here that says add font mapping. Actually, let me show you something else before we get into that. Something else I just remembered. So in my thing, when I was adding fonts, remember I opened this up on the side and I said, this is my 1-inch folder, because I went and I opened up the 1-inch folder. Let me close this out and show you. So we'll go to merge, and we're going out to the Juniper is the name of the font. And when I double click, I have a 1/2-inch folder, 1.5-inch folder, 1-inch folder, 2.5, 2-inch folder. Okay. Now notice that down here I have 3-inch. As I scroll down, see a Stitchtopia Juniper, and right in here it says 3-inch. Wrong example, sorry. All that folder I've already organized. Let's go to Black Caviar, because that's the one I'm getting ready to open and show you how to map. So I do have BX because Stitchtopia gives you that. But notice I have 3/4 inch in this folder. I have 1.5 inch in this folder. I have 1.25 inch in this folder. I have 1 inch, 2 inch in this one folder, the Black Caviar. Okay. So if I were to merge in under Black Caviar, and I wanted to do the word test, but this time I'm going to do it in 1.5 inch. So here's the letter T. So I'm bringing in Black Caviar in 1.5 inch. Now when I go into lettering, notice what happens. it opened up that same folder, but look at all of the different letters that's in that folder. That's because each one of those sizes opened up at the same time because they're all jumbled up in that one main folder. So you want to have your fonts, when you get them from whatever company you buy your fonts from, you want to organize them in folders by their size so that you can know, because I have no idea what size this letter T is. Look at there, it's much smaller. So I didn't know that. I just clicked on it to see if it worked, but now I'm gonna have to click through all these capital T's to see if I can find the right one. You don't wanna do that. So that's, again, going back to why it's really important to organize your folders. So doing so is also going to help you with this next part of mapping your fonts. So really quick, I'm gonna show you how to organize your folders. It's super, super simple. I'm gonna have to do it so that we can do this properly with mapping our fonts. So what I normally do is I open up the folder with all of the fonts in it. Then I click new folder. This is for Windows, but from what I understand, Apple does the same thing, Macintosh. And now this new folder has opened up. So I'm gonna select the first size right here, which is 3/4, Stitchtopia Black Caviar 3/4 inch, and that's the number 0. So I'm gonna click one time in that so that I can copy that file name, okay? So I can right click and copy, or I can Control C on my keyboard. Then I go to this folder and I'm gonna rename this folder what I just copied from off of that letter 0. But I'm also gonna take off the 0 because I want it to be Stitchtopia Black Caviar 3/4 inch, and then save it. Just click off of it and it automatically saves. So now I have a folder that's specifically set for 3/4 inch fonts. So I'll click one time on that first letter 0, and then I'm gonna scroll all the way down without clicking anything else down to the very last 3/4 inch that I see in the list, which is this vertical bar. All right, I'm gonna hold down my Shift key and then click on that vertical bar to select every last letter and character in between that is 3/4 inch. And then I can do one or two things. I can do Control X, which is cut, or I can click and drag it up and drop it on top of that 3/4 inch folder. And now all of the 3/4 inch files are in their own folder. Okay. So to do it again, I'm going to select 1.5 inch. I'm going to copy it. Oh, that did paste. That wasn't what I wanted to do, but I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to do new folder. And while new folder is already highlighted, I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to take that 0 off because I want a 1.5 inch folder. And then I'm going to click the first one, scroll down to the very last one, hold down Shift, select them all, and then drag them and put them in their folder where they're supposed to be. Easy peasy mac and cheesy. Okay. So yes, it takes time. I suggest you do this. You may have to sit down with a cup of coffee, throw some jazz on, some light jazz, dim the lights a little bit, chill out. You know what I'm saying? Might even have to do a glass of wine for those who indulge, just to calm down so you can get all these things done. But once they're done, and it's going to be so helpful for you. Let me show you. So now that we have 2 folders, all I'm gonna torture y'all with is just 2. So now let's go into our tools, EMB lettering. And now we're going to go right here to this add font mapping, and we're gonna add that Black Caviar font in here. So let's click that, and it's going to open up our workspace. And so we'll go to File, and we'll go to New. And now I'm going to go to the Black Caviar folder, which you'll have to navigate to your folder wherever it is. And then I'm going to open this up, and now I can grab the right size font that I need to work with. And we're going to do the 3/4 inch. Okay. So I'm gonna click on the 3/4 inch and hit OK. Ignore that. I don't know why it does that. It's a glitch. I think they're working on fixing that right now, but it doesn't matter because our font pulls right up. So here is our black caviar font. Let's get into programming, shall we? It's really easy. It's not hard at all, but it is programming. So first and foremost, what I want to point out is going to take you all the way back to grade school when you were in first grade, you know, kindergarten, or even third grade when you were learning cursive, and you remember that lined paper at school where it had the line, the blue line at top, the dash, and then the red at the bottom. That's what this red line stands for, is that bottom line that your letters rest on. So what we want to do is move this line so that our letters are going to type on a line like we want them to. So let's click on the line somewhere. It doesn't matter. Once you click on it, it's not going to highlight or anything, but you clicked on it, and your down arrow key on your keyboard moves that line down, moves all of them down. Okay. So what we want to do is get it to position where most of the letters rest on that line, most of them. Okay. So that looks pretty good to me. I like how that looks. The line is good. Everybody's lined up for the most part. There's a few rogue ones, like the C is floating, the A is floating, the E is floating. Let's fix that, okay? And the reason why you want to fix that is because if you don't, your letters, when you type them, they'll type in all kind of wonky, okay? Except for the ones that are on the line. Those will type out straight, but the others won't. So let's change those. I'm looking across all at the top. All of those are on the line. All of these are on the line. I'm gonna bring this Q down a little bit. So select the Q and tap it down until the butt of the Q is resting. That's the way I want that to be. So now here, our letter A, our letter C, our letter E, M, N, and O, they all look like, and the S and the U, they all look like they're about the same distance from the line. So I'm going to select them all. So I'm going to click on the A, hold down the control, click on the C, click on the E, click on the M, the N, and the O, click on the R, the S, the U, the V, the W, the X, and the Z for right now. And then I'm going to do my down arrow key, and notice all of them are dropping down into place where I want them to be. Okay. That's how you do it. The T was a little bit high on its own, so I'm gonna click it by itself and drop it down a little bit. The Y is way higher, so I'm gonna drop it down by itself to line it up where I want it to be. P and Q, I don't like where they are, so I'm gonna drop them down to where they're resting on the line. And so far, let's see, let's bring this J down a little bit, but other than that, everybody else is A-okay to me for right now, with the exception of this one is the apostrophe. Let's move it up. And then this one is the comma. Let's move it down. Okay. So aside from that, I'm good. I love where everything is. Now what we need to do is tell So What Pro what key goes with what letter. What key goes with what letter. So let's click on this 0. 0 is the first one, and it's a number. So let's click the 0 on the keyboard and watch what happens. Now all of the numbers jump in where they're supposed to be. In most instances, the people who digitize the fonts digitize them in a certain order. So they make it really easy for you and really easy for the program to program it for you. So now when I do a 1 or a 2 or a 3 in Stitchtopia Black Caviar 3/4 inch, it's going to know to do a number 3 when I click 3 on the keyboard. Okay. Same with our capital letters. Hit Shift for the capital A, and now all of our capital letters are in place automatically. Let's do the same thing with the lowercase a. Hit A on the keyboard. There's all your lowercase letters. Now the ones that are a little bit more of a pain are your extra characters, but Stitchtopia is awesome. They give you these extra characters in their fonts. A lot of other font people, they'll give you maybe a $sign and maybe a hashtag, but that's it. They don't usually give you all the others. So some fonts you'll have to program these in, some fonts won't have this stuff, but Stitchtopia gives it to you, which I love. So I'm just going to type these on the keyboard. That's my apostrophe, that's my ampersand, here's my @ symbol, here's my comma. I'm just, oh, nope, I typed period. So let's go back, delete and hit comma. Here's my, I think that's an underline, I think, I'm not sure, but we're gonna make that a dash for right now. Here's a $sign. And if you don't program this to a keystroke on your keyboard, it doesn't hurt anything. It's just that it will not type out when you pick that font to type it out. Okay. Here's a %sign. Here's our plus. Here's our hashtag. Here's our question mark. Here's our slash. And then that's a straight up and down. Don't know why somebody would want that, but that's there. And I think I'm going to use this as our tilde, and that's it. And that's it. That's how you map your fonts. That's how you program in your fonts that you purchase on your own from a website. So once we're done, we're going to hit save. And notice it says save as. This is the folder that it's going to go into because I already named the folder what I need it to be. I don't have to do anything but hit save. And that's that. So now at this point, I can do a new one and go into, we just did 1/4 inch. I could do 1.5 inch because the folder is already set up, or I can just hit close. Okay. Now, when you hit close, you're done. But the whole point in mapping that font was so that I could type something out, right? Let's type something out. So let's go here into our list of fonts. So now I have Juniper, I have Black Caviar, which we just did, and then I have Banana Cupcake. So I'm going to get the Black Caviar, and I'm going to type, this is a test. Look at that. Just type it on my keyboard. Awesome sauce. So now that I have this typed in, now I'm just going to hit save and then close. And now it pops into Sew It Pro automatically into the last project that I had open. All right. And that's how you type it in. That's how you add in your fonts. And notice each one came in as its own color stop. And that's because, you know, you can take the time and edit and move stuff. Like I may want to move this over, that's spaced out too far for me, I guess, you know, and I can edit as much as I want and do whatever I want to do with it. At this point, I can change colors. So if I wanted the word test to be a different color, I could do that. But that's pretty much it as far as bringing in a font and mapping it and programming it into the program. And then of course, once this is all where you want it to be, like to me, this T is up a little bit high, so I'm going to drop it down some. But once it's lined up and it's in the way you need it to be, then you can join your threads at this point so that they each don't stitch out as their own color stop. Okay, so I know that was a lot. Programming is quite, you know, hardcore stuff, but it's not difficult. It can be done. The thing is just you have to, you know, allot yourself the time to go ahead and program each one of those in. But I can't emphasize enough that whenever you bring in your folders, you'll download it as a zip file. I'm trying to find that zip file I just had. But unzip it, and as soon as you unzip your folder, it's going to show up as a whole folder. And then once you open up your whole folder, then go ahead and separate your stuff. Just do it as soon as you get it, and that way it's over and done with. But Stitchtopia has beautiful fonts, awesome fonts, and you can definitely, as you see, go ahead and program them in so that all you have to do is just type them out if that's the way you want to put your lettering into Sew It Pro. Okay, so that is the Sew It Pro basic class. Although the lettering part technically isn't basic, but that's one of the main things people want to do. So we decided to add that into the basic class so that you guys can, you know, go ahead and get your lettering on and add it to the designs. Yes, ma'am, Ms. K, did you have a question?
Yes. So could you just kind of revisit how you got from the EMB lettering and how we got to that screen where we were programming?
Yes. So the EMB lettering is under your tools and then EMB lettering. If you already have your font mapped, like we just did the 3/4 inch, all you have to do is select it right here in the thing and start typing. Okay, and then once you finish your typing, you save and then close and it'll put it in So What Pro. But like I just typed that, but maybe I want to do the other font. So this is a test too. And then you can do 2, 3, 4 different fonts. Here is your font screen to lay out your writing or whatever it is. This is your writing stage. And then when you're done, you can even change your colors right here. It's really cool what all you can do with it. You just hit save and then close and it'll pop all of this into your workspace so that you can size it accordingly. But if you're trying to not come here to type and do any typing, you just bought a new font and you want to add in letters, then it's the same thing. You go to EMB letters, it'll open up this, and then your T right here beside your list of fonts is how you add in a new font. So you click there and then it opens up your blank. This is your writing slot, your slate where you're going to map your letters, and then you'll do file and new. And we already did 3/4 inch, so we'll open up 1.5 inch now. And so now this is my 1.5. We didn't map 1.5. So I'll go through the exact same steps. I'll lower my red line to where my letters are resting on it. I'll go through and adjust my other letters so that my other letters are where they need to be. Once I do that, then I'll hit save and then save it and either do another font or close it out and then go back to my lettering.
You have to map the keyboard though before you save it, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. That is correct.
Like, that's not what the supposed.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna take the time to map it again because there's more time. But it's not hard. And then of course, once you map it and do the keystrokes, it's right here, ready for you to type with it. And then once you type,
my EMB says unable to read alphabet file.
Don't ignore it. As long as you selected a font, just click past that. They're still working out bugs with it. So I don't know if you have the updated version because mine told me to update and I haven't updated it yet.
I just downloaded it last night and I have fonts. Maybe it's the way I downloaded it because I'm pressing OK and it just keeps popping up.
Right, and it'll do that until it opens up the font. You just click OK and it should open up your font. Did you hit the T, add font mapping?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then when you do new, go into your list, make sure it's not a zip file, make sure it's an open file, and it's better. Actually, you really should only do it with the file size of that one size. And then when you hit OK, see mine tells me it's denied, but I know I'm not worried about that. I just keep hitting OK until it pops up. It could be because this is a separate program and it's trying to get permission to run because Windows is a permission-based environment, unfortunately. So if you don't give it the permission, it's trying to override that. Is the only explanation I can come up with that I can think why it would ask me that. Okay, did it pop up for you?
No, because I'm going back. So I go under tools and EMB, click on EMB lettering.
Mm-hmm.
And it just tells me unable to read alphabet file and it closes it out.
The other thing is, how did you download your file? When you did the download last night, did you use Google Chrome or did you use Microsoft or did you use Firefox?
I used, I don't know what's it called. Microsoft Edge.
Okay, then it should have worked for you. So what I'll do is put in a question. Of course, I won't be able to do it tonight, but we'll put in a question to them and I'll see if anybody else has had that problem and why it wouldn't let you open up a lettering file because it should.
Okay.
And it is an unzipped folder, right? The folder's unzipped.
I believe so. I can re-download it. I got it from Stitchtopia. Okay. But then it told me to extract, so maybe it is the wrong one.
Yeah, you want to go to the one that's already extracted. It should not have a zip on it, and then you should be able to open it. So go ahead and extract and try it again, and I'll hang tight. I heard another question, and we'll come back to it while you try to open that.
That was me. So when I get embroidery files from Etsy, and say I like the colors that, you know, that are already there, but I want to, you know, I have my colors already on my stand. So how do I know which color, and this is for my 10 needle, Racoma, how do I know which color is gonna go, you know, 1 through whatever?
Okay, so with that, in Sew Up Pro, this list tells you what colors come next. So once you know what colors come next, it's already programmed into the design. Now you have to know for color number 1, like this, even though it says deep green, I'm just gonna say it's black. I know that on my machine, my number 5 thread is black. So when I put this into my machine, I don't know how Racoma is set up with their computer interface, but on my machine, I'll program into my color stops on the machine to do number 5 for this first step. So you have to program that into your embroidery machine. That's not a Sew Up Pro thing, but the Sew Up Pro helps you see what color goes in what order, so that you'll know.
Okay, so it's best to bring it to Sew Up Pro first to see what color.
You know. The other alternative is usually if a person is a good digitizer, they'll provide you with a list of the color stops with their design in a PDF, and you can open that up, print it out, and you can follow along with that too, if you choose to do it that way. But if they don't provide that, then Sew Up Pro is excellent in giving you that. And you can print out your color stops too by going to File and Print, and you can print out your color stops as well.
Okay.
Miss Vanessa, were you able to get that loaded in? Did it work this time, or are you still working on it?
I'm still working on it. I'm downloading it back from Etsy. So yeah.
Which Stitchtopia?
Yeah.
Or a different font? I didn't know Stitchtopia had an Etsy. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have another question. It's about the colors again.
Okay.
So say for instance, we didn't use this cat, or maybe we used a cat, but say like the eyes were one color and then the heart or the hip or whatever was one color. Could we join those colors, or are those colors too far apart to be joined?
They can be joined, but that's what I was explaining earlier, that usually when it's digitized in the right order that it should stitch out, so that the image looks like it's supposed to look. So if they decided that this heart was step number 2 and the body was step number 3, you know, if I mess with that, I could end up putting the heart on top of the body, and then you'll be able to see the tail of the heart, which is supposed to be tucked behind those stitches. It's kind of hard to explain it without having an actual design to show you what that would look like. But, well, actually, let's do it this way. So say, for instance, I wanted this black or that dark color to be the shadow. And say this letter down here, T-E-S-T, I want it to be the same color, which is 808. Okay, so I could change the order and merge those. So let's go to join threads, all threads of the same color. And what could have happened, which in this instance it didn't, but we'll just move it just to show you. See, now it's not going to stitch out right. I didn't want the black to be on top. I wanted the blue to be on top. But because I joined those threads, it's going to stitch this last because test was last. You see what I'm saying? Mm. You don't want to throw off the order of your design either. You have to keep that in mind when you're working with a design and trying to join threads.
Can you move the order then? Would you be able to move the order?
You can, but if you've joined the colors, you can't move them separately. So okay. you might mess up something up here, but down here it was just fine. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
so,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, once you join it, you know, unless you hit back, and even then you'll undo some other stuff. So
yeah, I got what you're saying.
It just depends. You have to, once you get into it and get into editing designs and stuff, you'll get into the rhythm of knowing what you can join and what you can't.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So Miss Eve, with the ninja class, do I need the sew art?
No.
Is that what we're doing?
No, it's still Sew What Pro. I don't teach sew art. Sew art is a class. We have a person in our group, Miss Stephanie. She teaches sew art, and she also has the channel Clever Dog Designs. She does sew art very well. So I just let her handle the sew art stuff. I'm only fooling with Sew What Pro. There's only so much I can do. You can't open your Stitchtopia font either. Make sure it's the unzipped folder. Please make sure it's the unzipped version of that folder, Ms. Horn. And I'm just trying to find an example of that. It's in my downloads folder is a hot food mess. I got stuff all over the place. Like for instance, let's bring this over to desktop. So for instance, here's my Stitchtopia Juniper folder that's unzipped, and here's the one that's zipped. You have to make sure that when you're opening it up in Sew What Pro, it's not trying to open the zip folder. So let's go to File, and I'm going to merge. And on my desktop, notice here's the Stitchtopia Juniper. It's an open folder, and notice this one has the zip. It's not going to access this folder, not the fonts anyways, not the EMB lettering. You have to make sure it's this folder here. And Stitchtopia will open it. Now, another error that might be going on if it won't open it for you is it could be that you have all of those fonts in one folder, and it's like, no, I can't open this because that's too many fonts in one, font sizes in one folder. That could be the reason why it won't open it either in EMB lettering. You have to have each font size in its own folder. So that could be the issue as well. Matter of fact, let's test that out. See if that works. So here we are in EMB lettering. I'm going to do new, and make sure you select new, not open. You want to new, get a new folder. And here's my desktop. And on my desktop, I have, where are you? Here's Stitchtopia Juniper. I don't know whether this is the zipped file or not, but it's not letting, no, this isn't the zip file because I have my stuff split up. So I'm trying to see, I don't even see the zip file. So it may not even give you that as an option to open with EMB lettering. Yeah, I don't see it. So it may not give you the zip folder as an option. But let's try one. Black caviar. Yeah, see if you do, like if I select this folder, black caviar, and hit OK, it's not going to let me open it because that's not fonts, and it's too many fonts in that folder. So it's not going to let me. So that could be, so look, and now it's trying to pull, look, it pulled up everything, and that's not, we definitely don't want that. It did eventually open, but that's not what we want. Because you can't map your A's, B, C, and D on here because then all of the A's, you know what I'm saying? So it has to be separated.
So once we download the zip, what's the next step after that?
Extract it. And once you extract it, then you want to create your different folders in the different font sizes that you get with that font file. And then put each list of fonts in that size in its corresponding folder. Then you can map it in EMB lettering.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So as I mentioned, this video will be available to you guys to watch after the fact. I will email you a link. It will be on YouTube and it will be by link only. So as long as you have the email with your link in it, you'll be able to click on it and watch it anytime at your leisure. I have no intentions of taking it down. So feel free to review that at any point when you're trying to map your fonts or, you know, resize or whatever you need to do that went with this specific class. I look forward to seeing you all if you choose to take the Ninja level class. Ninja, we're going to be slicing and dicing designs and showing you how you can change the heart on the cat to a different color, change the eyes, the whiskers. You can do all of that stuff. And you can even add stitches a little bit here and there. You can add borders. It's all kind of stuff that we're going to be doing in that specific class. So I hope to see you there if you so choose to. And I appreciate you all being here. I got right at about 10 minutes before we go live on YouTube. So I do need to move my stuff and get set up in there in the studio. We won't be doing embroidery tonight, but we'll be doing sublimation. So we hope to definitely see you there if you would like to join us in our live tonight.
Can I ask one more question before we go? So you had, I remember in the beginning, you had the lettering folder. And then when you clicked in it, did you have the Stitchtopia folder within the lettering folder?
Normally that's where I would put it, yes. In this instance, I didn't because for the class, I needed to be able to get to it easily. So it was in a completely different folder. But normally, yes, that's where it would go.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there are still openings for the next class?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
we have,
good.
I think, 3 classes scheduled, 2 or 3 classes for the next. Make sure it's the Ninja class.
Okay.
Okay. So
thank you.
I appreciate it. And I will send you guys a link most likely tomorrow before 12, or sooner, with the link to this video. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.